In today's video, we're not really searching for Pinterest perfect, but what we are searching for are achievable ways to solve problems that all of our spaces might have in a budget-friendly and time-sensitive way. As Christmas is quickly approaching, these are some of my best last-minute tips and tricks to get your space totally decked out for the upcoming holiday season without breaking the bank. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. For this makeover, we will be doing it on my sister's kitchen, starting off with the point of entry to the kitchen, which is this door here that goes into the garage and this hallway. So a few things really simply you can do for the upcoming holiday season is to, of course, add a wreath and add some sort of decorative garland. So some of you might remember when I made this eucalyptus garland for the springtime. One thing that's great about eucalyptus as a floral is that it doesn't really have a specific season it's associated with. You can kind of use it all year depending what you add to it. So grabbed a tension rod from the thrift store as well as these stems here, and I just kept kind of like shoving them in until I felt like it was nice and full. Also added some fairy lights that I used for Halloween for my little terracotta jack-o'-lanterns, just repurposed them in a different way. And then once I was happy with the way that it looked, I just tightened it at the very top. And it's just such a nice way, it just draws your eyes right up. Now for the door, another great thing to do, even to the insides of your doors during the holiday months, is to add a wreath. And I made this olive wreath years ago now using thrifted materials, just simply wiped the door down and then attached a hook to the back of it. So then that way, once the holidays are over, she can take the wreaths down if she likes. But for the upcoming holiday season, I think it's a really great addition to this vantage point. So this is what I mean when I'm talking about a vantage point. From this direction, this is what you see. How can we make it better? What can we add to this or take away from this that will improve the space? Every house comes with its own weirdo challenges like this. Now, of course, you can turn this into functional electricity by adding some sort of an outlet plate or something like that. But because she was not already using it, we just decided to cover it with electrical tape. And then we're also just going to cover it now with this wooden peg rail that I found that was under $2. Added some stockings I wasn't going to be using this year, as well as some just scrap stems. And this is how it turned out. I think that from this vantage point now, it looks so much more appealing, so much more aesthetic, seasonally appropriate, but was under $10. So not exclusive to maybe Christmas, but definitely something that I wanted to address. Obviously too, you're hosting way more during this time of year. So you want to make this spot look as good as absolutely possible. I think a problem a lot of us have is that we all just have so much stuff and we don't know how to kind of disguise it so it still looks nice. So one of the best things you can invest in from the thrift store so it can still be super affordable are baskets. Some of you might remember these white linen baskets that I found at the Goodwill bins. I paid a few dollars for them. Or just look around your space and see what you could maybe repurpose. So I have this bench that lives in the unfinished side of my basement. Nobody uses it because the top is kind of beat up, but we haven't gotten rid of it for some reason. So even if it's not the perfect solution, again, it's not Pinterest perfect, it's going to kind of corral the shoes and the clutter and the ski stuff and all of the things involved with the winter months, but making it look a little bit nicer. If you have like $5 and 10 minutes, one of the easiest swaps you can make to your coat closet is just to go to Dollar Tree, buy a pack of their 15 velvet hangers for $5 and just switch all of those out. And then, you know, it gives you a little bit of extra maybe, so that way when guests do come in, they have an appropriate place to hang up their coat and set their things. And it just really gives off a sophisticated and polished experience when someone walks in and they realize that, oh wow, I have a place to actually put my coat. I don't have to throw it on a chair or throw it on a bench. Last little quick thing I want to mention about coat closets is adding additional lighting. And this does not have to be anything complicated, even as complicated as I'm showing you here. I found this sconce light at the thrift store for I think a few dollars. I'm not going to hardwire this in. We're just going to use a rechargeable light. Giving additional lighting to a space that doesn't have any is always going to help you stay more organized and find things easier. But if you don't find this, just a few puck lights in a couple choice areas will make a huge difference in the outcome of your space. So even if you haven't painted anything or renovated anything in a space, just by making it a little bit more tidy and organized gives off a more high-end look overall. So my sister kind of has an open concept in that she has this kind of dinette area that is attached to her kitchen, kind of like how my space is if you've been following my channel. But like I mentioned earlier, every footprint of every kitchen is a little bit different, and finding solutions to problems is really the key. For example, when I first got there, the table had been pushed all the way up to the windowsill and not centered under the pendant lights. So I told her, if it's because you want your plants to get their maximum light, let's give them a little shelf here, and then let's continue to center our table under the pendant light. So that's exactly what I did. Took some quick measurements, headed off to Home Depot, went to the 70% off section, grabbed this nice big piece of wood for just under $7, and then to attach it, I'm just going to use first liquid nails and then go in with my nail gun, and then just to really keep it secure, because she has like terracotta, like heavier planters on there. So moving on now to the rest of the space, one thing of course we were going to do is have to paint, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but one thing I was adamant on doing was adding some curtains, because that is a great way to really draw your eyes up. And you don't have to go to Amazon and spend $28. You can go to your thrift store, find brand new curtain rods in their boxes, brand new, have all the pieces, for so much cheaper. And the same goes for curtains. I find beautiful curtains all the time at the thrift store. For example, at the Hartville thrift shop, I found this set of 2 curtains from Threshold. They are normally, I believe, $30 a piece, and I paid $2 a piece for each of them. Of course, now is the time, especially in the areas where people may be congregating, touching up any paint or filling any holes. Like, now's the time to kind of do that stuff before you have company over. For me personally, I like to take my curtain rod as far and as wide as it will go, because I feel like that just makes your space feel that much more grand and luxe. Just again, continues to draw our eyes up. Another way to do that, if you have a lot of plants, consider maybe hanging some of your plants from the ceiling. I just took this basket from the thrift store as well as some twine from the thrift store, grabbed some C-hooks as a means to hang it. So the last adjustment I wanted to make to this side here was the light fixtures. There was nothing actually wrong with her light fixtures, but I did happen to come across 2 of these that I just felt made more of a statement, scale-wise felt a little bit better, so I just spray painted them with some textured black spray paint. And as you can see here, just making a few modifications like the curtain, the change in the pendant, and hanging up the plant, adding the shelf. Those 4 simple changes that we made such a huge difference, and in the overall look of her space, in my opinion, so much more high-end. Now for the table setting, if you are hosting in any capacity for Christmas but you don't have the funds to do it or the time, my recommendation is just find ways to use what you have. So for example, we used a tablecloth my sister already had. She also had these silver bells, so I just grabbed some ribbon from my stash and made these little napkin rings. It's just these small little touches that are fast and free. For example, even just taking any bowl that you have, leftover ornaments, leftover greenery, tying it off with a bow. If you have like a scrap candlestick, you could stick this underneath to give it a little bit of height. There's so many different ideas that you can use. Things around your house that you might just have sitting in a box. You don't always need to go out and buy something new in order to make your space just feel really sophisticated for the holiday season. If you are someone like myself who has fabric chairs and you have a lot of leftover greenery, maybe just consider going and buying one real bundle of florals. This could be any floral. I just chose Baby's Breath here. I made these little mini wreaths for the backs of her chairs. So again, some super affordable ways to just add some seasonality to your space when you don't have a ton of time. The next area I really wanted to tackle was this situation here. This is basically like separated peninsula, and it's great when you're entertaining. However, there is just one issue. It is a major drop zone because it doesn't really have a purpose. There's no place for people to sit down. It's kind of just like a catch-all for all of the papers and all of the things. In a lot of homes, we all have a version of some sort of a pegboard, an organizational situation that's like this. And to me personally, I feel like these kind of create more problems than they solve, because I don't even know what I would be looking for or looking at, and I'm sure my sister doesn't either. So what I'm gonna do is I found this thing at the thrift store. It is meant for jewelry. My thought was that we could, instead of use this for jewelry, we can just use this for a lot of these kinds of things, like put the pens and the markers and the scissors in here, put the essential oils all in here, just so then that way it really does stay a little bit more organized. Of course, printed pictures of my sister and my goddaughter, and just make it feel still personal. We're not taking the memories away. We're here for the memes, but we also need to find better solutions for organization. And sometimes even the pieces that you find from the thrift store might not be perfect. Like this piece here was still too kind of red undertoned for the rest of the wood tones. So you want to try to unify those as much as possible. So I went in with this stain spray paint that I've never used before, and it worked out really well. And I think it just kind of adds to the cohesion of the space. If you ever are finding that you need a piece of furniture, the thrift store, of course, Mac.bid, or just Facebook Marketplace. I found these crate and barrel bar stools that are adjustable, they're metal, they're heavy duty, and they fit perfectly in the space. Of course, again, we painted anything that needed to be painted, cleared off all of the clutter with some better organizational techniques, and it really just opens up this whole area, makes it feel so much more light and airy and breathable, which is what you want to feel, especially when you have more people in your space than you're used to. Keeping it nice and open is always a great idea. Next up, let's just do a few kind of quick tips when it comes to open shelving. So if you have any shelving anywhere in your space, I always like to clear everything off and start with a blank slate and then see what you can combine together. So yes, we need the Kleenexes, but can we put it in something that was already on the shelf that was empty and just make it a little bit more aesthetic that fits in with a more kind of neutralized color palette? DIYing some small scale artwork is always a great idea. I found this frame at the thrift store, this card at the thrift store. I'm just going to combine the two pieces together. You don't need to go to Home Depot and spend $50 on some little wall art. You can just make something custom yourself using things that you might already have, or you can thrift really affordably. If you find yourself having a lot of like small things like barware and things like that, try just corralling them on a tray, and then to make it festive, you can add additional ornaments or tie a ribbon around it. There's so many different like little hacks you can do. If you have open shelving, try looking at what's inside of your shelves that you can bring out and kind of tuck away the stuff that doesn't really fit in well, and it makes the space look more cluttered than it needs to. So for example, if you are someone like my sister who has a ton of cookbooks, I'm not saying that you can't have the cookbooks, but maybe find a container, a basket, a bin, something that you can kind of corral those books together. She still has all the accessibility to them, but they're not creating a lot of visual clutter. The last thing I wanted to mention is don't be afraid to move stuff around. So I will move this vase around probably like 5 to 15 times until I feel like it's proportionate to the rest of the shelf. So this takes practice, it takes time, and it's still not perfect, but it's better than it was, it's more organized than it was, and it's more visually pleasing. A lot of the same rules apply to just your countertop styling. So if you just look at some of these images, they feel visually busy. There is stuff everywhere. So finding ways to kind of keep what you need out in a beautiful way, this is where the thrift store can really save you. For example, instead of having like a blue egg carton out, you can just keep these eggs in a cute food safe container. If you want to make it feel a little bit more festive, try adding a candy cane to your crock or some stems like I did here, tie a ribbon around it. Lots of different things you can do to add that kind of festiveness into your space for the holiday season. If you are short on counter space, make sure the things that you're putting by the appliances make sense. So, you know, coffee cups by the coffee machine, olive oil by the air fryer, but make it so that they're not visually distracting. And you can just find all of these pieces. Eventually, if you go consistently to the thrift store, you can find a whole collection of everything you would ever need for your kitchen that's way better quality than anything you would buy at the Dollar Tree, and it actually will look beautiful. With all that being said, that really wraps it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you found this video super relatable and helpful. If you're struggling with your space, there's still so much you can do with just a little bit of time. A little bit of money can make all of the difference. You don't have to break the bank and spend time on really complicated projects. This whole thing, not including the bar stools, cost less than $100, and I think her space looks so much better. My sister and my goddaughter were just so excited with their new space. My goddaughter wanted to move out of her house all of the time, and now she said that she wants to stay and she loves it now. She wants me to do the living room next. My sister said she just feels so much calmer now. Things just feel more organized and put together and brighter, which of course is how you should feel in your space. So I hope that everybody enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments if you found something helpful, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Bye for now.